What's up? I'm back. This segment, I'm going to talk about some of the psychological warfare I see going on with the things happening in Baltimore, Maryland, the East Coast of the American seaboard. It's interesting because this is not going to be a video, the typical video, right, where we could talk about the police, we could talk about the system. But it's interesting because as I observe it from the West Coast, as I'm looking at it, it's interesting because you see, for instance, the concept of thuggery, right, or the word thug. The news media, when they want to, because the news media is basically part of the establishment. And the establishment, like I said in the Ferguson video, it's a system at this point. It's a system so much, the system is such a system that if you compare Maryland and Ferguson, you would say, well, Maryland has a black mayor, black police commissioner, but the same result happened. Right? You can make the argument the Maryland situation is actually worse. But so you would say, well, how come? Right? Because we have black president, black mayor, black police commissioner. And I said, as I said in the Ferguson video, I said it doesn't matter who sits on any chair. The system is the problem. So we've established that. I've established that from earlier videos. And to some extent, one thing I didn't cover was the deep psychological warfare that has gone on. The warfare is so lethal that in some regards, like, to be honest, I don't know if it could be fixed. You can help individuals, but the large majority of the population, right, who the warfare is being executed on, let's say in this case African Americans, I'm not sure if the large population could be helped because it's so deep, and sometimes it's deeper than people think, for instance, right? So I'll give you an example, because this kind of relates to the Ferguson video I made. What a lot of people don't really realize is the system makes layers. The system has layers of itself, right? So the system has a way of protecting itself by making portions of itself that seem like it's going against itself. So for instance, Democrats, Republicans, part of the same system. People get hung up on the two sides fighting. And I do admit, depending on your social economic status, maybe your race, maybe your gender, maybe your sexual orientation, there may be one side that fits your agenda more than the other. So that's true. So this is why I'm not going to say voting is a waste of time. I don't think it is a waste of time. But for the most part, Democrats, Republicans are two sides of the same coin, really, right? So they both, basically the system controls both sides. The system is so lethal, it even controls the opposition to some extent as well. I love libertarianism, but I do admit libertarianism in general, it wouldn't change the system the way it needs to be changed unless you're going to practice a real proactive libertarianism. But even then, there would have to be a spiritual discussion, and that's not going to happen. So it wouldn't even matter if it's third party, Democrat, Republican. You will see the same thing, even though depending on who's running things, you might see certain things in a greater degree than others. Because even though the Democrats and Republicans are two sides of the same elite, they are two different elite wings that come together to serve certain purposes. So yeah, there might be one wing that has their money tied up in social services, right? So they may like big government. You might have another wing who might be tapped into energy, right? Might be tapped into production of weapons. They might like the military. So yeah, no question, you do benefit. Some people would benefit from one side ruling than the other, but for the most part, both of them are the same. And no matter which one gets elected, the system survives. And it's the same thing with what I'm talking about now, right? So I'll give you a good example. You would have someone who would say, because to be fair, let's be honest, right? If you are into, let's say, black consciousness, for the regular person, Martin Luther King might be beautiful. People use his example. That's why you see a lot of right-wingers say, well, Martin Luther King, think about the riots. And I always say, I do think Martin Luther King, his image was probably created, in a sense. I think he was more revolutionary than people think, but that's another video, right? That's a whole different video. Now, when you look at Martin Luther King, right, so let's say the person who is the quote-unquote safe black guy, a black woman, right, they say, I like Martin Luther King. Now, the person who thinks they're revolutionary, right, will say, I prefer Malcolm X, I prefer the Black Panther Party. Now, Some people would say if you are the proud black person, they wouldn't allow you to say that you like the Malcolm X or Black Panther Party. They would sabotage you. Now, to some extent, obviously, the side that likes Martin Luther King is probably more preferred. I would agree with you there. But it's still two sides of the same coin, because no matter which side you pick, the system still wins. If you try to go at them directly, with just pure guns only, they'll win. And if you be passive, they'll win. So the system is what I'm saying is pretends that it cares if you choose Martin Luther King, or you choose Malcolm X, or you choose the Black Panther Party. It pretends to care if you choose Christianity or if you choose voodoo. It appears to care that says pick Christianity. Of course, it's always going to pick the one that's going to be easier to contain, but at the end of the day, both sides can be contained. Now, when you say a name like Marcus Garvey, it's a little different now. People say, why? Well, yeah, his image was prepackaged too, and they made it believe that he said every black person should go back to Africa, which wasn't true. He said the best of black people should go back to Africa, but Africa is supposed to be the center of the blacks of the sport worldwide. You don't have to live there per se, but build it, invest in it, take care of her, and make that be your center, and then you could branch out wherever you want to go. That message was more of a threat, no question about that. Why? Because the system doesn't have an answer for that, to be honest, at least at that time. So when you look at it, and when you look at it from a certain angle, you had to really be into a certain type of knowledge to understand what Garvey was trying to say. So a lot of people quote him, but they don't really know what he was really trying to say. So when you look at it from a certain angle, most people don't really realize the system would usually always pick extreme choices. Like when you see choices that are extreme, it's usually choices the system makes. But the system is so good, it even had, like, this is how you could tell that people are under the spell. You're writing, right? Let's say you're writing. You don't like what's going on, which you should. I'm not going to lie to you. You should express yourself. And sometimes people only respond to a more proactive approach. So I'm not going to say it's wrong, per se. Right? We could get into your own neighborhoods and all those other types of, that's a whole different discussion. But I'm making this video to show an example. So you're writing. You don't like what's going on, right? The mainstream media, which serves the system, the police force, which serves the system, says, you're a thug. Look what you're doing. Now, you care so much that I have to look on Facebook, I have to look at black media, and see a whole bunch of reasons why the people in Baltimore are not thugs. And it's interesting because not only do I have to see it, hear it, you can look at it and you can see the psychological scars that's happening. You are upset that they're calling you a thug. You're upset. Which shows that you're living under their frame. And when I say frame, it means there's a construction, right? Let's say you take a box. They label you. They tell you what race you are, what culture you are. Basically, they tell you how good you should feel about yourself. So if you have a certain amount of money, you feel good. If you don't have a certain amount of money, you don't feel good. Some people have money, but then wish they owe money, right? Some people are ugly. Well, not ugly, but ugly by the system's point of view, or not attractive by the system's point of view. So they say you should look like this. So they control basically your self-image. And when you look at what I was saying about 5-10 minutes ago in the video, they even know that 5 or 10% of you are going to be rebellious. So they make up a box for you. And you don't even know it. That's the problem, right? The 5 or 10% of you that are rebellious, they make a box for you. And you think that you're being rebellious because you don't fit what the mainstream 90% of people are following. But at the end of the day, you're both victims, right? You're both programmed. And in a sense, you know that you're programmed because you care that they call you a thug. And you know what's funny? You probably should care that you call you a thug, but you don't know why you should care. See, the system is so slick. They control the images. They control almost every system, spiritually, culturally, economically. They really can't control the mind. You could never control somebody's mind unless the person allows you to control their mind. So they control our minds too, but it's because we allow it. So here's the problem that comes in. The average person, when they hear, this is how you know that it's psychological warfare. They're calling you a thug because you don't know what a thug is. This is why you've been bamboozled. If you want to talk about historically, if you want to talk about currently, right, the people who are tearing up the streets in Baltimore, or the people who were angry in Ferguson, they're not going around the world and destroying other people's countries, right? So if you look at it in terms of who's doing the most damage, the people who are calling those individuals thugs are supporting a lifestyle, a regime, right? A globalist structure that goes to other people's countries and kills them, takes their land, takes their resources, right? So if you look at it in the overall scheme of things, who's more of a thug? And this is not coming from the angry point of view. This is just coming from this is being a realist, right? The same person who will say someone like Ferguson is a thug, if a soldier comes back and say I killed 300 people in Afghanistan or Iraq, they will give him a purple star. So when you look at it, you have to be able to look at things without emotion, because when you get emotional, you have to understand the system knows the best way to control you is to get you emotional, to get you reactive, because when you're reactive, when you're emotional, it can calculate what you're going to do, right? So the system would tell you it's good to be proper, it's good to be educated, it's good to be safe. So if you're a thug, right, you're not safe, you're not proper, you might not care what people think. You should, you have a reputation, so don't be the thug. And I'm not into thuggery, I'm gonna tell you why, but this is my point. You don't know why you shouldn't be a thug. You don't know why you should be offended. Someone is telling you why you should be offended. That same system that pretends that people of color, mainly black people though, are thugs, right? Here's the funny part. Because when you're analyzing the system, you have to analyze it from every detail, from every corner, right? This is the same system that put Italian gangsters on a pedestal, right? On a total pedestal, right? So much so that people who weren't in the game, who weren't in law enforcement, will believe the hype. So people say, what do you mean? Say, take John Gotti, the last real great mobster in America, at least. The Sicilians still have theirs, but that's dying too, but they still have some to some extent. He was considered the last great mobster. He was put in a pedestal. He's called a Teflon Don, right? People, all kinds of people will look at him, beat the government, and he was gangster, straight up, right? They glorified that though. You take someone black in the same position, they will not be glorified. And here's the thing that's going to happen. A whole bunch of, sometimes a person who never lived the game, never been in the game, doesn't know it, will say, well, black people never rose to the power of the Italians. Because in fact, if you look at even the time of Frank Lucas and Nicky Barnes, that's what some law enforcement used to say. Funny thing is, even I've said John Gotti was the last great true mobster. And to be honest, the Italians weren't even running it when Gotti was in control, to be honest. The Colombians totally exceeded their power even back then. But yet, they glorified it. Not only did they glorify him, if a black person was at the same stature, they would say a black person can't be at that stature. Then you get the safe people who say, well, why are you putting gangsterism on a pedestal? This is how the system works. So much so that even now, the cartels of Nigeria, West Africa are considered now top 3, top 4 most powerful gangsters in the world. People in America will not know that. So you say, wait a minute. If being a thug, because I'm going to tell you the difference between being a thug and a gangster, but I'm not getting to that yet. So if being a thug was so wrong, they should give you that. They should say, you know what? Forget Gotti. The Italians were always nice guys. Here, you take that. You take that label because we don't want it. But if you notice, they want that label too. So they want to say they found this civilization, and then they want to say we're the biggest thugs. And this is not out of anger. I'm just telling you how it works. The reason why you don't really realize the reason why you should be mad at the term thug is not because of what you've been taught as what a thug is. The reason why you should be angry at the term thug is what thug really is. A thug is a person who is working for somebody you call a real gangster, and that's as if he's a smart thug. If he's not, he's just a person who may, at best, trying to survive. Right? You know, you steal to protect your family. You know, not protect your family. You don't have any money. Your family can't eat. You might steal. You might rob someone. Is it honorable? No, it's not. Right? But this is what thug really is versus gangster. A gangster is someone who builds industries. And when the industry is built, they don't call you a gangster anymore. Because I'm sorry to wake you guys up. Both people who would turn their nose up at the word thug, and or even me giving this example, or the people who might think they're real gangsters. At the end of the day, real gangsters build industries. Real gangsters are part of networks that will come together for a certain purpose and strike by any force necessary, whether it's banking or whether it's the guns. That's really a gangster. The thug can't see outside his frame. So the thug, if he's smart, has to work for a real gangster. The real gangster is successful in building his industry, he's not called a gangster anymore. This is why some gangsters get angry at people who put them down, and these are the same people who don't want to fight the corporations. The corporations are the biggest gangsters we have. They're not called it because they created industries. And in the industry, they can make their own frame. They could say, I'm McDonald's, I'm killing people every year, maybe more than even drugs are, but because I made my own industry and I got my FDA boys to support it, it's legal now. I'm a legal gangster. And I'm so connected, the cops are my soldiers. The army is my big guns. That's how connected I am. And some corporations are so greedy, they run drugs too, even now, because to be honest, drugs to make more money than oil. So some corporations, the greedier ones, are running drugs too at this point, even though they may not have to. So when you look at it, understand why you're mad. When you want to say, why doesn't things change? Understand how your subconscious mind works. Understand that your subconscious mind is actually wiser than your conscious mind. Understand that because your subconscious mind is wiser than your conscious mind, when you give your subconscious mind directions, right, and you don't have a plan or it's not structured, the subconscious mind will sabotage the direction. So if I want to be revolutionary and I want to destroy the system and I don't know what I will do when I destroy the system, I'm going to have to build a new one. And if I don't know what capitalism is, if I don't know what socialism is, you don't know what economics are, you don't know, well, you're living with a whole bunch of other people, other nations, you're going to have a plan. What's your views on what's going on in countries you can't even pronounce? If you don't know that, if you don't care about that, and you're trying to destroy the system, your own subconscious mind knows, you know what, I'm going to sabotage you because you don't have a plan. You don't know what the F you're doing, to be honest. And that's real talk. Some people may not like it, right? But it's realism. If you don't have a plan, and none of you guys have a plan, half the people don't even know what economics, politics, they don't even know what that is. Some people don't even care, to be honest. Then your subconscious mind will betray you. That's why almost every movement gets destroyed at the end. Because that's how it goes. The subconscious mind has to do with survival. Your subconscious mind is the one that's making your heart pump. That's making your lungs get oxygen. That's what your subconscious mind deals with survival. If you give your subconscious mind a plan that it knows it's not going to work, or you don't even have a plan, you don't even know what you want to do, you're just reacting, then whatever movement or social change you're trying to do will not work. So if you get angry, understand why you're angry, to be honest. Understand the system. I saw an actor say, if you want to really beat the system, you have to know how it works. And so far, I'm just seeing people who really don't know how it works. And you have the right to be angry. No one's telling you don't have the right to be that. But you have to be smart because you're dealing with a globalized machine that's extremely smart. Till next time, peace.